I am not Robin Hood, and this sure ain't Sherwood Forest. More like the King's Royal Dungeon. Doesn't mean we can't smuggle in a few of the protected succulent venison, build a roaring fire, roast them, lift a cup of mead, or Gold Peak tea, as it were, and tell grand tales. The tough beats and gambling glories centered around the greatest game ever played. Look, my dad was a real taskmaster. And if I was going to be a horse player, and that was my ambition since I was about 11 years old, then I was going to be professional and dedicated and taciturn and ignore other social influences when I was at the racetrack. What I really wanted to do was to congregate with my buddies and share ideas and share thoughts. And I've probably read 700 books on handicapping, but I swear the most important things I've learned from other horse players. My father, nonetheless, used to try and call me away from the herd and separate me from my pals and other handicappers who were sociable and sharing ideas. And he used to point to these guys that would sit around the grandstand at Old Waterford Park with these smug, wise ass, silent looks on their faces, like they were headed for the OK Corral and they were some kind of badass handicapping version of Wyatt Earp or something like that. And when I finally did go up and approach those guys, just out of curiosity about my dad's theory that they were brilliant because they were silent and withdrawn and smug. They turned out to be some of the biggest effing idiots I've ever talked to in my life. So intelligent people, good handicappers, like to share thoughts and ideas. So if you want to do that, you come to the right place. We call it the Dungeon. I am Mark Patterson. Our subscription number is growing. 500 is the goal, and after that, maybe 1,000. The Mountain Main has dried out full cycle. It is fast. Last night, it had dried to the good rating and didn't seem very good at all down along the inside. It seemed better out wide. I think you guys would probably agree with that if you're watching the races last night. Bad news, and you knew this was coming, again off the grass. Hard shower midway through the day yesterday. I kind of wiped us out for turf tonight, and more rain on the way tomorrow, which really, I'm not sure the ground can really stand because West Virginia has been, and I just heard this before I came down to kick up the show, I declared a disaster area because we've had so much rain. I live on a hill, so I really don't get the brunt of that, or go any place where it's flooded out, but I guess it's dire in some counties in West Virginia. Only 2 races have been scheduled for the grass tonight, so that's a good thing, correct? Or is it really? Because off-turf races, as I've often stated here on this very broadcast, have become some of my favorite events to bet on. I love the whole Robin Hood mythology and just kind of spun that out there off the top of my head. I never consider my cold openers. You could probably tell because that one was kind of hurried and rushed and maybe didn't make a whole lot of sense. Huh? How about the new movie that's out? And I want to watch it. And it might be available at normal cable rates, normal rental rates now, instead of the thing when you go on Xfinity and it says buy or rent. And what they mean is you can rent it for like $19.99 for a couple of tickets worth at the movies if you went to the theater. I think today it's down to $6 and some change or something like that, which is too much. And it's going to break me to keep doing that, to keep renting movies at that kind of a fee. But I want to see The Death of Robin Hood. I want to see that real bad, different take, I guess a more grim take that doesn't spin Robin Hood into some kind of a virtuous character. And I might watch that later on this evening. Our opener, 6 furlongs. This is a maiden $15,000 claimer. And you know what? I'm eager to get down to business here and probably to bet this race because I glanced at the board a couple of minutes ago. And I think the favorite here is a turkey, not a succulent venison in Sherwood Forest running free or anything like that, but a turkey ripe for the plucking. And that's number 4, Briarcliff. Briarcliff, he's probably going to run well, but he's just kind of there. He is 0 for 15. It seems like 0 for 45 to me. Briarcliff kind of hits him where they ain't. He runs the path of least resistance. When he runs 5/8, he rallies just a bit, but not enough. When he runs around the ground, he shows speed for a good ways, but not far enough. Briarcliff, I thought he had a good chance last time, did Briarcliff, that 32 Beyer speed fig. And that was put up in an off-turf race of questionable quality. I think this is a better field, by the way, a potentially better field. Probably came up easier in this race, figures 2, for Briarcliff. Also, and this is drawn a really fine line. I'm threading a needle here, but I've seen a lot of horses like Briarcliff that had a chance when they run around a ground because they could pop to the lead. Had a chance at 5/8 because against super weak speeds, they all of a sudden took on the guise of some kind of a pseudo closer. But at 6 furlongs, they were kind of defenseless. They really didn't have a running style or much to put out there and offer. I think Briarcliff might fit that category, and I'm itching to try and get him beat here. On the inside, you got a horse named Springs. Springs is kind of a one-hit wonder if you want to look back at that race at Losal that found him second. The best placing of his career, the best speed figure of his career, has not come back to run anything like that since. Third start of cycle, though, and that's when a lot of horses begin to get their game going. And also, I would mention that this trainer just was the bane of my evening a couple of nights ago. I'm using old-fashioned Sherwood Forest words, you know. Did you guys pick up on that? When he won the last race with Outkissed, a 5 furlong quitter who gets outfooted in the worst part of the track, down along the inside, going 6 furlongs in a race that was just loaded with speed. And duels, gets topped, comes, bids to the lead, just keeps going. It was like a nightmare. It was worse than a nightmare. I could dream about going to hell, and it wouldn't be as bad as watching the replay on that Outkissed race, which screwed me, this unlikeliest of winners, out of like a $2,000 score. So this trainer, and I mentioned it before the race, kind of a clever guy. You may not find that in the records or supported by his formulator stats, but he does get hot for brief periods of time, and his horses run right out of the bridle sometimes. So that win from Outkissed the other night might be an alarm bell to give Springs some extra credit here. If the track is like last night, though, and I'm not sure that's going to be the case because it has drive full cycle to fast, then the one post, inside post, will not be his friend. The one post breaks from the 2 slot anyways at Mountaineer. You guys know that from watching them load the gate and the head-on shot there. So I don't mean the one post literally, but I mean breaking closest to the inside. I'm coming down to a horse that I do like here somewhat, Triple Max, number 5, Triple Max. This trainer's 0 for 1 on the season, but that was a second-place finish. And out of the other 7 starters over the course of the last couple of years here, I did win 2 or 3 races, I think. So is live at Mountaineer generally, and it looks like they imported the rider as part of the package here. And some of you guys, I think in particular, a friend of mine from Florida, just swears by this angle where the jock ships in for 1 mount. Yeah, my dad used to call it a widow jockey angle or something like that, something sinister sounding. But anyways, Triple Max, the closest thing to dirt out of the 2 tries on turf and the 1 synthetic attempt, obviously the all-weather footing try, that's dirt adjacent, and Triple Max was close to the pace with a near $100,000 purse at stake in Kentucky, and then put up a Beyer speed fig. I know it's synthetics, but still a 51, which would probably win this race. Triple Max didn't seem to like the turf by McLean's music. So that kind of pedigree is supposed to produce just at least a smidgen of main track brilliance. So maybe this is what the horse wants, and he hasn't seen competition like this before. And it's his first time in for a claiming price. I think this horse is going to be live and loaded for bear. Number 5, Triple Max. And that is kind of sight unseen because the big guys never run on conventional dirt. Another horse I like here, Leo Q, number 9. Leo Q, I think, has a big chance also. Leo Q, dirt again would be the question because he's only been on dirt 1 time and was almost eased. He was dead last of 11. I'm not sure he had learned to run, though, at that point. If you look back at what preceded that dirt try, the only dirt try for Leo Q, so they're thinking, oh, my God, let's get him off this stuff. They never entered on it on purpose to begin with. They wanted to run on grass, and the same case tonight with Leo Q. Leo Q, we get over to synthetics, and so many horses. Several starts later, we get over to synthetics after a turf odyssey there. And so many horses that run good, or at least okay at Prescal, can come and improve over the mountain main. Sometimes even synthetic specialists, it seems like to me. And another theory I have is that horses that tank first time around on dirt, you know, those old rom-coms from the 1960s, like with Frank Sinatra, and you name the aging female star. Love is better the second time around. Dirt is better the second time around, in my experience. There's something about synthetics that toughens a horse up and trains that horse to do better when they get back over on dirt. I swear it's the case. Plus, you got Matty Kintz here, and he's won so many races, bringing horses here from Prescal off the Tapeta. In addition, I'm going to lump one more factoid on there to my Leo Q commentary. 2 back on June the 3rd. Those were sizzling fractions for that class race. And I looked it up, and the horse that set the lead there had a 1:15 time form, early pace number, and was opening 5-6 length leads to the pre-stretch and almost every sprint on his page there. So that horse was incredibly rapid. So Leo Q had no chance. In fact, give him some extra credit for chasing that runner and losing by just 7 3/4 lengths there Probably doesn't want to go a full big boy distance of ground on synthetics because that can be a little bit taxing. So this might be a better game for Leo Q. But again, as with number 5 Triple Max, kind of a pig in the poke. And you would have to bet on Leo Q, almost sight unseen on conventional dirt. I got a feeling whichever one of these takes to the dirt better is going to be the one you want to bet on. Field's still in the paddock at 2 minutes to post there. Yeah, my dad used to spew that stuff at me all the time. He would point at these solitary, smug, silent dudes that would look at me like I was lint on the floor or something like that when they'd walk to the windows and see me all gregarious and holding court with my buddies. And these looks on their faces like they had all the answers in the universe. And then you'd go up to them and start some kind of a conversation. And they would be adding like the track variant, the Sticks and Stones track variant back then, and the speed rating, like it was sent down from the Holy Mountain or something like that. That method, add the speed rating. Remember when they used to do that back in the 60s and 70s? That obtuse method of rating a horse's final time, add the raw variant with the speed rating. And boy, that was their method, baby. And again, they were just slinking around and strutting around like they were Wyatt Earp taking a 6-gun to the OK Corral. The second race, we have got 5 to the post there, and Grimes jumps off the page's lone speed. Grimes has not performed well over the mountain main, but did get his game going last time on the grass, Grimes, and is a winner on conventional dirt. And I keep looking back at that towering number, at least for a $5,000 condition race at Tampa, 75 figure back in April of 2025. That shows me some kind of dirt aptitude for Grimes. And this horse can get to the lead and control the lead almost without even trying here, Grimes. And I think it's preferable from the informed horses there, Grimes, Citizen, and Judge Rules. I think it's far preferable to the other pair. So I'm seriously contemplating a daily double bet that takes Triple Max and Leo Q over to Grimes in the second race. I'm going to go over and check out those wheel pays and wish you guys luck. No big value on either of the horses I'm going to use in the front double here, numbers 5 and 9, but I want to try and get some of that money that I consider to be, if not dead, then maybe in critical condition on 2-1 Briarcliff. So I think I'm going to go ahead and bet the double. Okay, I guess it's gonna help if I turn the mic on here, huh? I was gonna say, as long as we're in medieval mode, I'm gonna answer that question. Why does it say Monday the 17th? This is Monday the 17th because I'm what is commonly referred to as the village idiot, guys. Out of like 45 shows I've taped so far on my new YouTube channel, I think I've put the wrong date on like 18 of the suckers. I mean, seriously, literally. And also apologies again to my man Paul from Laguna Beach. I'm gonna write it 100 times on the blackboard. And believe it or not, I have a blackboard here in my finished basement. It just seemed trendy and stylish. And I'm gonna write Laguna Beach is in California, not Florida. Laguna Beach is in California, not Florida. I'm sure Paul was rooting for all he was worth for the 5-horse there with his jock with one mount angle. I'm a little surprised at the daily double payoff that it's bigger to the 1-horse than it is to the that it's bigger to Grimes than it is to Judge Rules there. Because Judge Rules being the low daily double, and if he goes off the outright favorite in the win pool here, I think I said I'll jump from a Swiss Alp and Yodel all the way down. Grimes is going to be the favorite here, so no idea what the payoff is more generous on Grimes than it is on Judge Rules in the daily double. But I'll take it if it transpires. I guess we shall see, won't we? I told you guys going in, and this is a fine point of handicapping, but it's something to tuck away in your toolbox. Seen a lot of horses over the years, period. But I've seen a lot of horses like Briarcliff that had a plan of attack, that had a weapon, and that's early speed in 2-turn races, and could muster something of a passing gear and a little bit of finish in 5H races that were loaded with even weaker speeds. A lot of times these horses are like a man without a country when they go 6 furlongs. They have no weaponry. They have no mode of attack. And I think that was the case there with Briarcliff. When Matty Kins brings them from Prescott, hard man to beat. And I swear sometimes dirt is better. Repeat after me, guys. Dirt is better the second time around. I've seen this pattern a bunch of times. Horses that tank on dirt, get over to synthetics or back over to synthetics, acquire further seasoning. And there's something about synthetics that hardens and conditions a horse to do better when returned to dirt a second time. 1 mile for the second race. Looks like the Mountain Main's been heavily watered this afternoon, huh? So we got a mile here, open 7,500. This was supposed to be grass. After this, it was all dirt, right from the drawing board. And we've got 5 going to the post, and Judge Rules wins last time. Citizen wins last time. Grimes runs second last time. So it's kind of a case of 3 in good current form. And I guess some kind of a case could be made for any of the trio. As far as Judge Rules goes, Judge Rules with a romping win at Mahoning on wet footing back on January the 22nd. All 3 of his wins have been on wet tracks, by the way. Judge Rules. Now, most recently, I'm not sure how wet that track was. It was rated good. He was grinding and grinding and grinding, Judge Rules. He was outrun there to the winner until the bitter end when Parker just kept getting into this horse and into this horse and into this horse. And it was a gut check coming down to the wire there for Judge Rules, who put up a kind of speed fig that I don't think is going to frighten his other 2 main foes that are staying back at the barn either, Judge Rules. I will say this. The drop makes some sense because with a lifetime condition gone, and it was a non-3 last time for the 15, he's worth less, not more, to the people that pay his bills. He's worth less, a horse like Judge Rules, and this is a proper approach at the entry box. The horse that he beat, Change at Jamaica, got a good trip, fought back right down to the nitty-gritty, and had romped on the dirt in a dirt race. He came in with a turf resume and to run on grass, I'm sure. But he'd romped on dirt in his previous outing over the Mountain Main. So he was a handful there. The only thing not to like is the grinding manner that Judge Rules went about his business, and also the speed fig that did not come back quite as ostentatious as I might have expected from that duo that fought it out right to the finish. Number 5, Citizen. I know this was pretty well from his Austintown, Ohio. This is what I call Mahoning, Austintown. It's about a 45-minute drive. And I like to go track set every once in a while, but it's so dead now. I think I said this before, man. It's just dead. I feel like I'm walking into a funeral parlor. The last time I went, I left after 1 race because it was so depressing, man. Looked like a defunct racetrack or something, but you bet it from off track. And the CAW are notoriously present. They have a presence at Mahoning. Citizen ran in that 3 life condition, and finally takes it down by a thrusting head from way behind the pace there. That was in the mud. This is another horse that's probably better on wet footing, something to take into account here. before you knock Grimes too much for the 4 synthetic wins, but just a 1 dirt win. Look at a Citizen. Citizen with 3 for 6, the record on wet footing, and just 1 for 17, and no other exacta runs on fast conventional dirt. Citizen. I'm surprised that this guy, who rarely wins a race, to be honest about it, Vickers, got a horse from master trainer Craig Sweeting and did the horse justice with a win, which he did last time with Citizen, which I guess makes Citizen a player here. But nobody really fired there in that off-turf race. In fact, the favorite, I think, was an Esther Rivera horse who'd run one time here and tossed a jock or something like that, and just didn't run a jump. And those are real low-condition horses and turf horses behind Citizen on that ticket. I wasn't too impressed with the whole affair. Plus, it was a negative rail racetrack, too, where speed was dead or something like that. I think he had some of the grain in his favor there, too, did Citizen. So now we're going to move on up and talk about the horse that I got going on the Daily Double here, Grimes. At 3 minutes to post. They're coming out early. I don't have the track early by minor standards. And this horse is not the favorite. Actually, it's Judge Rules right now. This Judge Rules is 6-5 in accordance with being the low-paying Daily Double. I still say Grimes takes the late money in the win pool. Grimes is 8-5. Grimes is only 1-4-14 on conventional dirt, and showed a strange distaste for the mountain main there, and only got his game going when they got him over to grass. But that tells me that he's in pretty good form right now, Grimes. That front-running effort last time, with a decent grass horse on top of him on that ticket, he fronted some other speeds and then fought back manfully through most of the home stretch there, did Grimes. And he has that one big number on dirt to harken back to. And this horse should stroll to the lead, right? Just stroll to the lead. And let's Enjoy Baseball flashes back to some of his route speed. And he's never been all that fast either. Enjoy Baseball likes 24 and some heavy change, maybe a 25. I think Grimes is just faster than Enjoy Baseball. And Enjoy Baseball's getting up there in years and just hasn't shown so much so far this year. So I'm not too sure. I'd bet any big money that he's going to be any kind of pressure out there on number 1 Grimes. And I think the lead has got Grimes' name written all over it. Grimes is the gray. Welcome in, you guys, to the comments section. We'll get to some of the comments later. My man Hojan Lee says, we're right there with you on Outcast, kicking me in the privates. Somebody says Mark is drunk. Actually, no. I'm drinking iced tea tonight, guys. You know what? I'm a little hesitant to open this tea, though, because I have like 3-4 ice boxes. My wife demanded this all over my house. I've got one in the finished half of my basement, one in the industrial half, unfinished half of my basement. And I've got one in the garage. She had to have that. Oh, yeah, had to have it, baby. And then, of course, one conventional refrigerator in the kitchen. So the first time I've reached into the little ice box over in the finished half of my basement in years, literally in a couple of years. We've been in this house for about 3 years. And so I see a bottle of Gold Peak tea. So the sucker's got to be like 3 years old, 2.5 years old, but it's still sealed at the top. So it's still good, right? I don't know, because I see little brown chunks floating around in there, you know? I don't know. Maybe it is fermented. And I will be into my cups after I consume this. Mark is drunk. I can tell you a couple of stories about when I did the Mountaineer feed. And some well-meaning fans kept bringing Michael and me shots, which we would secret under the studio desk. And we were ripped a couple of times, man. And I mean, ripped. He's hammered. No, I swear I'm not. I could do this show under the influence. I've done a few shows under the influence, guys. And I don't think any of the quality control experts complain about my commentary on those particular occasions. So I'm going to go watch this race and try to root my daily doubling. So I'm dying of thirst and too lazy to get up and walk over and get a fresh beverage. So I did test it out and I'm still with you guys. So something to be said for that. I guess maybe I will survive imbibing the 3-year-old Gold Peak tea, guys. I used to swig from far worse just to mess with McMichael because I would carry these gallon jugs of Diet Peach iced tea around, the cheap stuff, the United stuff, Best Buy there is at the supermarket. I carried around like an umbilical cord all freaking day long till people finally got used to my nonsense, my heathen ways. And I would always have one in the studio, and sometimes it would get a little age on it and maybe grow some green chunks in there and stuff like that. So Michael would recognize that and look down under my side at the simulcast desk and say, Marky, throw that away. Please, please throw it away. So I would make a point of taking it out from under the desk and like I was going to throw it away. And I'd wait a couple of races and then take a couple of big swigs, at which point she would give me the you're no longer part of my existence thing, where she used to hold her hand up on the side of her face. And I don't blame her for doing that in response to my shenanigans. I did survive it. I got another tea story that I barely survived. Maybe I'll tell a little bit later. Okay, so I connect on the Daily Double. I hope you guys did too. $20, I thought was a good payoff on that double. I liked the ride from Ramjeet, and you better file that away and put it on tape because that's not a phrase you're going to hear too often from me. I like how he busted Grimes out of the gate about 2.5 on top. And then when the 4-horse gets hard sent, and that had to happen, Ho-Jin Lee pointed it out there. Vickers also with the closer in there, Citizen. So they're going to muster up that old speed from Enjoy Baseball and try to thwart Grimes. I love the way Ramjeet handled it. He did not put his head down like he sometimes does and go ahead and make some wasteful early gambit up the inside and try to get by a horse that still lets him run and Enjoy Baseball. But he eased out where the track was better last night and kept his mount under restraint and let Grimes just go up to gradually wear Enjoy Baseball down on his own courage. Grimes. And you know which way this cookie was going to crumble when Parker went to the whip first, because it was in some doubt given the position and the momentum that Judge Rules had lower turn, but the whip came out on Judge Rules, and you could see it coming like a slow speed train wreck if you're on Judge Rules, that Grimes was going to just get to the wire before Judge Rules got to him. And Grimes is rateable too. He's only had to lead one time on his page there. And his big number race that I alluded to a couple of times in the pre-race commentary, that came from behind the pace for a resounding win, going 7/8 at Tampa. So he's rateable as Grimes, huh? Oh, yeah, man. This thing had turned green, and I'd pull it out from under the desk and just real casually take a couple of swigs. Yeah, man, yeah. Good memories. 5 furlongs for the third race. This was never supposed to be turf, so. Maiden special, fillies and mares, 3s and up. We got a field of 6. And the 1-horse is taking play, first time to the post. Bien Charlie, out of the same dam as Charlecito. You guys know Charlecito? Another Horatio Barberan horse that hasn't been to the races in quite some time. Charlecito, officially only like 1 for 20 or 22 or something like that. Not a real good horse. But had to break his maiden twice because the first time the test came back bad. And I think that's the case with every single win that Horatio Barberan ever posted, just to be honest about it. And I couldn't say this kind of shit when I was working in the industry, but now I can, and nobody's going to stop me, by God. Bien Charlie worked 35 and change, breezing under wraps, and did it from the gate, from a standing start there, huh? Did Bien Charlie so? Might have a little bit of early foot there, I guess, Bien Charlie. I don't know. I guess we'll find out, huh? I'm not sure that being a half to Charlecito was any ringing endorsement for a first-time starter. Number 2, Q Pixie Dust. Now we're getting a little bit warmer, I think. Second-time starters, Eric Reed wins almost 20% of the time, and they get off at surprisingly good prices because he more than beats the skim with about a 14% profit on top of that. This horse is a full sibling to Q-Pix. Q-Pix, I think, has won about 3-4 races this year in off-pace mode, like around 15,000 claiming and stuff like that. So Q-Pix is not fast and was never precocious, but is useful, okay? And they thought enough of Q Pixie Dust to try the bigs. Churchill Downs, first time out there, and Q-Pix misbehaved at the gate. And I like this pattern when a first-time starter is sent back to the drawing board when they take a couple of months to get things right with a horse before they come back to competition. It's almost like a reboot on a horse like Q Pixie Dust. Also, for this owner, Eric Reed chose a nice flat bet profitable. I think that's attributable to Q Pix winning at 17 to 1 one time this year or something like that. So Q Pix, I think, is probably going to run okay here. By Cupid, who won the West Virginia Derby as a Bob Baffert trainee, a gray front runner, Cupid. You Mountaineer aficionados probably remember that. El Migdar, number 3. El Migdar took a lot of play last time because El Migdar was coming from Prescal and maybe perceived to improve. Second time out there. This trainer's sneaky with long shots sometimes. El Migdar, though, I think was 5 to 2 because that race was just woeful. It was bad. It was a bad field. El Migdar faced last time, so it just hadn't shown me anything. By Curlin is El Migdar. Continue, number 4, will continue through this field and talk about Continue. Continue. Christopher Logston's horse, who ran 1 second in an off-turf race with a $25,000 claiming price, so he's not going to revisit $4,000 too soon. This happens. Horses get trounced for $4,000, and instead of waiting to find other $4,000 races, they end up in some off-turf races and manage to catch a piece. And some super soft, super slow. And this was the case on July the 7th for Continue, catch a piece in some bad off-turf race, but a race that's a higher claiming price. All of a sudden, the connections get delusions of class and now outright entered for dirt. And a maiden special weight race of all things. And no thanks. Not for me, guys. Just not for me. Sagsy, number 5. Sagsy was second last time. Aforementioned Lanita race. I wasn't too impressed with Sagsy's action. I guess that kind of an effort could win this. This race is probably that lacking in quality, but Sagsy has yet to run back to the Tampa form, it looks like to me. Same with you guys? Sagsy runs 5 furlongs here, and it seems like the shorter the distance, the less alert Sagsy is, although I'll be darned if you can find much in here in the way of speed, unless being Charlie's going to pop the latch off that 35 and change work and some early money that being Charlie took, which maybe is talking through the tote board. Just 1 minute to post, and on the outside, Low Braveheart. I think Low Braveheart is worth to look at here. Scott Murphy popped up out of nowhere and ran 1-2 in the nightcap here, I think week before last, almost as if to signal some impending life from his barn. And Low Braveheart ran a 46 buyer in a Keeneland maiden special weight race. First time out, and it's after a slow start. Maybe he's learned to break a little bit better, it looks like, huh? And last time, I will tell you this, Low Braveheart was in a much better field than this, led a half mile's worth. Speed's a precious commodity in this race. It's sorely lacking. And also, I don't think the inside part of the track was real good. And Low Braveheart, after putting away the 1 and the 2, kind of ducked down in there a little bit. So Low Braveheart, I think, is under bet at 8 to 1 there. Low Braveheart. So my potential winners are Q Pixie Dust and Low Braveheart here. Sagsy, I probably gets a piece, but your 2 to 1 Sagsy is not a horse I necessarily want to put on top. And I'm going to make Ben Charlie show me that he's the goods first time out. So again, my potential winners are Q Pixie Dust and Low Braveheart. I'm going to comment on my man Steve Madge that said Q Pixie Works looks suspicious. I'm going to guess you mean suspiciously slow. That's the slowest footing known to man there. Aside from Point Meadows. Mercury, I think that's Eric Reed's own training track or something like that. And then it goes so slow. It's got to be deep. and Cuppy and all that stuff. So you're going to see a lot of slow works from Mercury, and I don't mean the horses are necessarily slow that work out there. I guess you'd be a fool to say that Sagasy could not win, but not for me at 4-5. Just not sexy enough. No verve there. I was going to speculate, maybe try to get the lead. I bet light, very light on the outside horse because I felt like the horse would get the lead and then just folded like a pig, man. Just very unbecoming effort from the outside horse. Says Sagasy finds a field she can beat, and maybe ran a little bit more like that Florida form. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. I think the stewards watched that replay like 3-4 times instead of just slapping an official on it, only because if it was even a mildest of fouls, they might have to take action if the fouled horse was cost a placing. And little Braveheart narrowly missed a second there. So that's why they kept looking at it. If little Braveheart had been second, they would have looked at it like once and then slapped an official sign up there because it was not DQ worthy. Unless they cost somebody a placing. And even then it was. And there wasn't much going on there. It came over about half a path. And the Jockey Lodge foul, never checked, never really studied or waited or anything, you know? So it's got to be official as is. This is not a great card, by the way. I might like a couple of horses later on, though. We're going out to a mile here. And this is Nominators in 12 months. So we're going back a long way. And so many horses that the big outfits like Clouston bring in here. And he's done this. He's like, I think, the descendant of the Dale Baird philosophy. Baird used to buy for conditions, and Clouston does a lot of the same. And ideally, he can bring a horse from a bigger track, not only someplace where they have bigger purses, but someplace where they don't even write this Nominators in 12 months. And the horse drops in track class, competes for lower purses. That's a couple of boosts right there. And then picks up more in the way of conditions, stuff that's not even written at the places where some of these horses come from. And I think that's one of the stories behind Clouston's success over the years. And what I'm getting at is number 9, Majestic Tiger fits that bill. Although Clouston's been strangely silent with horses over from his man, Jamie Ness. How many winners has King Clouston brought here that he bought privately from Jamie Ness? You know, these guys are playing friendly. They're sharing notes, probably similar training methods. And sometimes even improve when they come here for Eddie. And sometimes they look like cripples, you know. It seems like they've always tailed off or run a bad one or two or taken a negative drop or something like that. Maybe a pull up on the page. But it seems like Clouston smooths out the stride there a little bit in some of these cases, although no recent history of that because Eddie was sidelined for a good while. And since he's come back, I haven't seen him run much that he bought from Jamie Ness. He's due to unveil a big batch from Ness, right? Like a whole truckload. Majestic Tiger, I look at the conditions a lot when they come here for Nominators in 12 months. And you can see where this horse fits it only by 4 days, just 4 days. So you know he's been running in tougher spots. And I looked up the headings on his last 2 races at Delaware. And those were both mixed conditions, Nominators in 6 months or like 4 life or 2 and 12 months or something. So less restrictive headings than this. So this is just classic stuff. This is a prototypical form that Clouston brings here and wins with. My only reservation here, because it's a bad field, it's an easy assignment for this invader who was also, if it weren't obvious enough, the only invader in the field, really. Cleveland Power's been here before, so was Braggadocious, although they both ran elsewhere last time. So the lone invader thing, the Clouston over from Jamie Ness thing, and the higher conditions this horse has been running in, and was a step slow last time, didn't seem to like the sprint tempo, is better at a distance of ground, it looks like to me, Majestic Tiger, and was 7 inside of Majestic Tiger. It's not an ideal draw, but if Majestic Tiger can't get some kind of forward position here without the jock emptying much of the tank out, then shame on Majestic Tiger, really. That's just my take on it. The favorite, though, at least a minute or two ago on the board, was number 8, Bella's Prayer. Bella's Prayer from Indy, and Indy's sexier. Indy is better when it comes to winning races at the mountain than either Penn or Delaware. So there was that. And up until the most recent race, which was a troubled trip, I guess, Bella's Prayer was consistently churning out Buyer's Speed Figs. It would not lose this race. It was a machine in terms of high 50s, low 60s. But there's a caveat here. There's a plot twist. I'm not sure how much the Indy mystique applies at Mountaineer when it's over to Shane Spieth. Shane Spieth has got 3 wins on the year. I think they were all with the same horse. Trying to recall the runner's name, Versatile or something like that, when Shane had his 15 minutes of fame early in the meet and has cooled off since then for sure. And doesn't win a lot of races over the course of an entire season at Mountaineer. So I would temper my enthusiasm for this horse a little bit based on the connections. I would. But obviously, a better form, a more competitive form, and from a tougher track than Majestic Tiger brings to this fray. Cleveland Power. This horse started out at Mountaineer, then went to Ohio, was an Ohio bred, and he's just a pain in the royal ass. Cleveland Power. He always does a little running and just enough in some portion of the race to screw up my projections and my plays. When I don't need him to show speed, he goes out and flashes. When I don't need a horse to close and clunk up for a piece of it, a minor piece, that's exactly what he does. Cleveland Power just rarely wins. Did score a $20,000 claimer for his lone score in 2025, but that was Ohio bred, just grossly inflated. The speed figs aren't scary to anybody. And he was in with his homies last time, went to Belterra because I guess they're thinking he's in good form after being second here for $4,000. So they're thinking he's worth more than that on the Ohio bred market. So they go to Belterra and the horse runs okay. Cleveland Power manages to lose a little ground down the lane, though. He just doesn't have that winning surge, that winning knack. Cleveland Power. That's the best I can explain it. You're going to hear his name called a bunch of times here, though, because he'll insinuate his way into the action at some point. Believe me, that's what Cleveland Power does. Johnny Quist. I love this name. Reminds me of the old action figure toy. Johnny Quist, when he came here, was 3-2 after a couple of tune-ups at Gulfstream after being away forever. And those seem to have maybe set him up, at least to some players, to come here and take the non-12 months. But, he hasn't. Oh, he sure hasn't. And when I look at him, 3 lengths on top, 24-1 there on July the 7th, and full to lose by 14. At that point, it's game over. I no longer entertain any notion of Johnny gracing the winner's enclosure, as Pete likes to say. So it's just not a circle. Pete started dubbing it an enclosure years ago. Clever guy, that Peter Berry. Cool Quartet. Did we talk about Cool Quartet? No, we didn't. Did we not? Okay, how many minutes? Because I can gab right through post time. I've done it before, believe me. One minute to post. Cool Quartet is 23-1. And was in so tough with Boldness last time. Boldness was, I think, a midstay, like 4-race win streak that would culminate with that, was it a 1.5 mile score or something like that? In starter allowance competition. So he was in tough with Boldness. You can lose by 12 to Boldness in a higher condition than this, by the way, and still win this race. You can lose by 19 to Thought, who just gallivanted to a soft lead there when he was still good for 75. You can lose by 18 to him and still come in there and beat this field. What I'm not sure you can do is be away more than 2.5 months and win this race if you're no more talented than the aging Cool Quartet is at this point. It's been a good career, but it's ancient Roman history, right? And Majestic Tiger is indeed the favorite. Another horse taking play is Major Tom on the inside. Major Tom. Looks like a late sprinter to me, does Major Tom. And they're going to stretch him out defensively here, I think, because he can't keep up going short. That's what this is about, correct? Big Effect, man. He ran into a monster there, though, so he almost has to run better than he did against Big Effect. Has this horse ever won a route race? I don't think so. Has he? Can I check him out real quick? Do I have time? What's its on? Ground Control to Major Tom. Nice, been a sprinter. Tried a route just a couple of times and finished up the track. So big question mark about the distance. I think they're just trying something desperately with him to get him up in the pan picture. I'm thinking about a bet on the Clouston horse, although I had hoped that the Shane Speech private buy might be held lower in the win pool. So I don't think this is real good value on the horse that I deem the likeliest winner, Majestic Tiger. He's 5-2 right now. Somebody just texted me that was a premature move on the Clouston Chuck. I don't think so. The horse just didn't run. Eddie's dead right now, just dead in the water with whatever he ships in. Anyways, Shane Speece is dead with whatever he runs. He had his 15 minutes of hot fame with one horse earlier in the meet there. That was kind of a somebody had to win it race. And as far as premature moves go, it's not like Barrios was sitting there plodding and waiting and saving horse to get the last laugh. He's riding for all he's worth the whole way on that winner who just gets up and wins a somebody had to win it race, Chopped, who's honest anyways. And he's got his one win for the year now, Chopped. So good on him, huh? But Chopped is not the kind of horse you're going to ever point to. Like the old match game. We used to say this all the time. Like the old match game with Gene Rayburn. If you ask the question, I love Chopped in this race because he is, you can't answer it. You can never like Chopped just for a piece. Maybe a meltdown race sometime where the price is humongous on Chopped and he's in half decent form. I don't know. Every winner tonight's been well out from the rail, it seems like, at least through the important stages. Shades of last night, even though the track is now dried full cycle. 4.5, although a couple of horses have run okay on the inside. You don't always know about any kind of path bias or running style bias. It's a matter of opinion. When I used to do the bias notes on my website, and they were really popular, they went over big, I had a caveat, a disclaimer: bias is in the eye of the beholder. Subjective. 4.5 for the fifth race, but this is as low as you can go. Filly and Mare maidens that run for 3,200, and they're only going to make them jaunt 4.5 furlongs for their money, man. So you don't get much lower than this. Somebody mentioned, and they're correct in the comments, that the morning line of Blue Moon Fire has got to be out of whack. Huh? It has to be. Comes from Colonial, and you know what? There was an A other than on the same card at 6 furlongs. You don't want to compare fractions of different distances. That's apples and oranges. But at 6 furlongs at Colonial, and A other than Fillies and Mares, went 44-4. So that 45-1, pretty good split. A big class drop for Blue Moon Fire, who ran a good number as a first-time starter. Will not enter to be claimed at a fairgrounds maiden special there, huh? Also, and I had egg on my face last night for saying this several times because both Angel Rodriguez horses ran like crap. But when he was here a couple of years ago, this guy was dynamite. He was bringing them up from Florida, and they were winning left and right, man. He was just winning and winning. And left here with all the money on Angel Rodriguez. So I don't know if he can get back to his winning ways here and the friendly confines of the mountain with Blue Moon Fire. Blue Moon Fire is going to be under fire right from the get-go because this is 4.5. And even with the class drop, I'm not sure I see 4.5 furlong quickness here. And the inside post may not be a great place to be either. The 3 right next to Blue Moon Fire, very collected. It was running the 2-turn sprints at Charlestown and showing half-decent stamina to get seconds and thirds and stuff. All of a sudden, got in touch with her inner speedball at Prescott and also Thistledown, but it's been burning money with the speed thing going on. 3-5 finishes third. 5-2 favorite finishes third. Even money blows a 3-length lead. Charthena, big drop all the way to bottom here for Charthena. Marco Kamaki, former trainer, on very collected. Sometimes when they do this, they put it in somebody else's name because the racing sector is going to get mad wherever they're stabled at. Maybe in Ohio with a horse like Very Collected, if they run somewhere else. So they run in another name, and hopefully the office doesn't pick up on it. I'm not saying that's what's going on here, but it happens. Charthena, at first blush, you're going to look and say, boy, quick 4.5 speed and closed last time. Must have been in some trouble early and must be improving to change style and rally, except it was just kind of a bland performance. Charthena, not a straw in her path, but for some reason just did not detonate there. I'm not too sure the connections were real impressed because they dropped the bottom right out and come to 3,200 here. Story Channel is over 25. There's one of these in every maiden race, right? The professional maiden. This horse originated, I think, for $4,000 here a couple of years ago in some desultory 2-turn races. Kevin Mundy did have a horse run right off the screen in a short maiden sprint that had speed like Story Channel does. But Story Channel has been away since December, and that's an aborted comeback. Just 2 starts worth after being off since July. And I remember this horse too well. Those talentless $4,000 route races, just not a good horse. First time starter, Greta T. No. Echo Vision, lots of speed. Sometimes you can get fooled when a horse keeps blowing the lead, blowing the lead, blowing the lead, and then they run without the lead and show some increased tenacity, which Cleveland Power does not possess, by the way. The will to win does not abide in Cleveland Power. It's like a line from Rooster Cogburn, the sequel, the lesser sequel to True Grit, when the old chick, the legendary actress, Katharine Hepburn says, Rooster, the love of decency does not abide in you. Man, I did not sound remotely like Katharine Hepburn, nor did I really want to. The love of victory does not abide in Cleveland Power. Echo Vision, a little increased determination last time to run without the lead and hold on for third, and does have speed. I don't like the overall form, though. It's been in some really bad races. Sometimes those $25,000 races, the 12.5s are even worse than the cheap ones because people put their inexperienced pets in those races that have never shown diddly. And Roseanne Rules on the outside. I think Roseanne, and that's why I posted your comment, Mr. Norman Williams, AKA Lyrics. I wonder if this is go time for the kid. Because I can make a case for this horse, believe me, Roseanne Rules. When she came to Mountaineer, she looked to be sitting on a win. She runs second off the sidelines. You can't get her back in at Mountaineer because Mountaineer shuts down right after that. So she comes back, gets a tune-up, and then next time is in very tough with a short-priced Jaybird Diamond Dancer. And that track wasn't just negative rail, and Roseanne Rules was right down, mired to the fence. But it was actually actively pro-wide, I think. So she is much better than you're going to ascertain from that line. And she's got some speed too, Roseanne Rules. One thing this kid can do, he can jack him out of the gate. I'm not saying you're going to get any duplication of that 72 speed pick from Delmar that found Roseanne second going 6 furlongs. So she's not that horse anymore. But there was some talent there at one time. And Blue Moon Fire, Live Invader, 7-2. I would prefer to see a little more quickness, or else a horse that had developed some kind of a passing gear on an option to maybe drop back and then come out around somebody. Very collected, number 3. Again, supported is Burnt Money as very collected. Charthena, I think, might be overbet there at 4-1. I think the kid is live on Roseanne Rules. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the only horse that I see with enough talent to beat the performance that I think Roseanne Rules might be sitting on, even with the over 23 record. And I don't hold all those losses against her because a lot of them were at the SoCal majors. But I think the horse with the potential, and this would entail the right trip, which is a big, big if, to beat a Roseanne Rules is number 2, Blue Moon Fire. We've got some dudes with good vocabularies haunting the dungeon these days. Last night, somebody disagreed with me. I think it was my man, Kenny Neely, said, I disagree vehemently. And tonight we have had the word impeccable invoked, as Ace McDuff says, I feel like my capping has been impeccable. But the effing horses just won't cooperate. Might be the first sentence I've ever seen, Ace, that uses both impeccable and the F-bomb in the same sentence. Huh? Yeah, might be the only one that I've seen. You know, and it doesn't shock me that way. It really doesn't, because the horse is a chronic quitter. But I mentioned this pattern. Sometimes when chronic quitters race deny the lead and still show just a little bit of grit to hang on and not be badly beaten, it's a sign they've turned some kind of a corner from the standpoint of stamina or determination. So Echo Vision shows the customary speed, but tonight doesn't look back. The old timers used to say, my dad loved this expression, forgot to quit. She forgot to quit. Echo Vision. Somebody said that I cannot sanction the buffoonery. I love this. Of no rolling doubles. My man Rex says that Code Brown is in the house too, or Rex. I talk to Rex via text. Sometimes. And the buffoonery thing comes from a story I told about the lousy Batman movie where Val Kilmer tried to play Batman and Tommy Lee Jones played Two-Face. Not a good job of Two-Face. And Jim Carrey was being the Riddler, and he was in character, doing some method acting all over the lot. And I guess Tommy Lee Jones had enough of it. I resented, I think, sharing top billing with Jim Carrey to begin with. The curmudgeonly, I could use a big word myself, correct, if I can. The curmudgeonly Tommy Lee Jones. So when Jim Carrey saw him out at dinner, Tommy Lee Jones, they're making the same movie and have a lot of scenes together. He walked over to Tommy Lee and said, good to see you, Mr. Jones. Tommy Lee ignores him. So the kid says, Jim Carrey says, why don't you like me, Mr. Jones? So Tommy Lee Jones utters the immortal line, I cannot sanction your buffoonery, sir. Buffoonery. So I guess maybe that's the word for the night in the dungeon. Buffoonery, huh? Buffoonery. So we're up to the sixth race now. It's cheap never two for fillies to go 6 furlongs. There's a horse in it that's going to be about 2 to 5. Number 3, Lightning Lane. Jaume Davidovich. This guy's a real sharpie. Believe me. The only caveat is Leland Hayes is down as owner, and he might be doing his own training here. So I'm not sure you're going to get the full effect of the Davidovich brand here with Lightning Lane. This horse fits the same pattern that won the first race, correct? When I said the dirt's better second time around, and it worked out in the first race with a Matty Kent's horse coming from Presque Isle. And Lightning Lane flopped our first couple of trips on dirt, but has been further seasoned and has come into her own since on synthetics. And I'm going to guess transfers to synthetic form seamlessly this time over to the Mountain Main. Wants the lead, couldn't get the lead last couple of times. Gets the lead here, at least it should. Lightning Lane, and what do you got to beat? What do you got to beat? 1 for 22, Heavenly Lady, who was 30 to 1, 77 to 1, 67 to 1. And made only a token late run last time as that winner, opened like 25 lengths on the field, literally, and then was walking in deep stretch. So Heavenly Lady is not really a finisher, because anytime she's in position to benefit herself with a finish, she falls apart in her own right in the late stages. Our Candy, mentioned these 12-5 claimers, and she was second in one of them. 4 starts back. Sometimes they're softer than garden variety bottom claimers, because people put their pets in their recent purchases with lousy forms and horses that are homebreds and stuff like that. I swear sometimes they come up easier. And that race was very easy. Plus Our Candy on paper had the lead there, and is not getting the lead here from Lightning Lane, I don't think. Round in circles. Doesn't run too fast going around in circles. Kunum number 5. I can't figure this horse out. Won first time to the post at 4.5 furlongs there, and was all over the lead, and has only made the lead one time since, and even stretched out, and I'm sure with some attempt in mind there to get this horse back out on the engine. Hasn't worked, as Kunum's been sluggish. So now they're doing the furlong flip-flop. Kunum won't display the kind of speed at a route they want and can't sustain at a route. So why not turn back to 6 furlongs, you know? Matol's secret, second time out at the meet, and you got Terry Crago as trainer, and he's a guy to keep a good eye peeled for. Matol's secret with a couple of good Indy races in non-claiming competition, and even state restricted at Indy. Those races are tough when those horses come to Mountaineer. But do the math. Matol's secret, it's the 5/8 colon, about 103 last time. What can you do with that, really? What are you going to do with that? Going to run to the window and bet on it? I can't sanction the buffoonery of no rolling daily doubles. Code Brown says Blue Moon Odom was one of those celebrity golfers. Did Blue Moon deign to speak to you, Mr. Code Brown? You stinking Cleveland fan? Just joking, my man. I believe in civility amongst NFL fans. As a matter of fact, I was at a Steeler game a few years back. Cold freaking weather, man. It was like 12 degrees, and we went because we had tickets, you know? And so we're sitting there freezing our patooties off in the stands at the Acrisure Stadium. And there's some guy all the way from San Diego, the then San Diego Chargers, with a San Diego jersey on, you know, and he's got his girlfriend with him, and they're trying to have a good time, cuddling up in the cold and stuff like that. And some drunken Steeler fans, these weren't little guys, begin to harass this man, you know, just way out of line, profane, shaming him in front of his girlfriend. So I was outnumbered, but I actually did stand up and say, cut that shit out, guys. Just cut that shit out. Harassing opposing fans that wear the opposing team's jersey in the stadium of your home team. That don't fly with me. It's a freaking game. And I'm about as devout a Steeler fan as you would ever find. I worship the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not going to fight or get angry at opposing fans. No, I hate the other teams. And I've often stated that I think it's hate that drives viewership and popularity in pro sports, most specifically the NFL, because I can only love one team. Oh, but I can hate a bunch of them and figure out a reason on behalf of the Pittsburgh Steelers to hate darn near every other franchise in the league. And believe me, I have those reasons. But I'm not going to quarrel with fans of other franchises. That's juvenile. 4-5 on Lightning Lane. Big whoop, even money right now. A Dream Leader didn't talk about on the outside. A Dream Leader's race over to turf I thought was a lot better than her dirt wears. And that was at Laurel on June the 12th. I thought that would set her up for a better effort than we saw in a bad field on July the 13th. And then over to dirt, it was just lousy. And this is a horse that drops way back when sprinting, blinkers on. I think the idea is to get Dream Leader up in the pan picture, at least at some point, you know? 7-2. Lightning Lane's going to go 2-5 here. And I'm not going to get suckered in. I'm not going to get fooled because I know what's going to happen to the price. I'm by far the most probable winner in this field. So I will probably go to Pasadena. Good friends. Somebody mentioned Lightning Lane going off 3-1 was a tell. I thought it was really strange that Lightning Lane did not end up favored. I thought Lightning Lane would be a really short price. Instead, all the money came to Dream Leader on the outside, who did give an improved effort with the fresh hood there, but takes a tough beat to the Terry Crago horse. And when I see Crago win a race, I feel like saying Mark Jackson, I think, coined this race. Mama, there goes that man again. Underrated conditioner, Terry Crago. And I mentioned beforehand that those restricted races, allowance, maiden special, the Indiana breds are very tough out there. Are really tough when they come to Mountaineer. I didn't like the return to the game there. Hit the 5/8 calling about 103. Not real talented. Didn't take much talent to win this race, though. I really did not. Did somebody watch the head on there? I did not watch the head on. I was on the phone. The break, I'm curious whether the number 3 horse missed a kick or was shuffled back. Probably wasn't going to win it anyways, and does not seem to like dirt, guys. I posted my late daily double plays. I've been sitting around and waiting to wager on this late double, guys. I was going to stay and talk to you anyways. He of the bacon neck t-shirt. Did you guys notice that? Nice little fashion accoutrement, huh? Would have been here talking to you guys anyways, but I've got a purpose in hanging out in the dungeon tonight. I want to bet this late double, hit the front double, and I want to focus on the late double a little bit too. I want to stand against Lost Bikini, the one horse in the 7th race. I don't think the inside's real good to begin with. And I don't think Lost Bikini is going to run that big here either. Lost Bikini is, and this is a strange race. No winners in 12 months for 7,500 claiming with no clause like lesser wins don't count or anything like that. So these horses would all gladly run for $4,000. I think if the race had been in there for 4,000, right? And in some instances, 3,200. So this is completely bogus, this claiming price on this field. It's the condition that counts, and it tells you about the lack of quality in this race. Lost Bikini was claimed and was virtually eased. That's 12.5 there invested back in June of 2024. Hate to see that happen to Barb Sauer because she's a good gal. She's a pony girl at Mountaineer for years and years and years. And an outrider, too, I think she used to be, Barb Sauer. But I don't think she's got a lot of money to spend or throw around. And she bought the booby prize here with Lost Bikini. Had to be away for 2 years. I don't know if they tried to breed her or what, but obviously was a bad claim, and then comes back to action there and runs a low buyer and gets to one post here, and needed another month and a half plus away from the game after that long absence before getting back into action to begin with. So this horse begs to be bet against. Win, lose, or draw. I will take my medicine if Lost Bikini beats me, even as lousy as this field is. I'm not going to look and say, geez, Lost Bikini's the only horse in here that they probably wouldn't run for $4,000 or 3,200. So Lost Bikini is the quote unquote class. No, she's not. No, she's not. Maybe back in year of our Lord 2023, she was. So I'm itching to bet against Lost Bikini. When I see Romantic Jewel, my mouth waters because Romantic Jewel just never wins. I think it's been like 4 years, maybe 5, since she actually scored. What she does is likes to run second still every once in a while, but never threatens anybody. Her last 2 seconds, she lost them by like 18 total lengths. It's not brain surgery, guys. A Romantic Jewel can go out there and pollute the pace and inconvenience whoever gets the lead here. I think that's her role, Romantic Jewel, but there's 2 horses, the bookends, that I throw completely out. And they're the 2 lowest prices on the morning line. Although the Mountaineer morning line doesn't mean a whole lot. So I've narrowed it down to like 3 potential winners now because Bold Nikki with a 2 for 35 record, I don't think so. So what do we got? We got Future Flight, Coin Purse, and Constitutionalist. The rare horse that Cluley cannot seem to get run out of. He did initially out of the claim box last year, but then Constitutionalist completely lost her action, her desire, her mojo. Constitutionalist. She was always a speed horse. It was suspect at the break and suspect from the standpoint of quickness. And she never threatens to show speed anymore nowadays. My winners here, my possible winners are Coin Purse, a new shooter in town, and number 2, Future Flay, because Constitutionalist in her heart of hearts wants to show speed. Romantic Jewel will show speed. Coin Purse. I think the most recent one was actually a wire job at 4 furlongs or something like that. So she's an early player too, which could set up for Future Flay. Now, Future Flay's form, you got to hold your nose and turn your head up in the air a little bit to bet on her with the over 24 local record. But she was second with a speed fig that would maybe come home above this field on July the 20th and hates the slop, it looks like to me. Doesn't like the slop a lot. And then comes back, and 4.5 is too short. Bashful Daisy came back to win and win pretty well. I think Future Flay is going to be the only horse moving late here, Future Flay. The trainer has had the saddle out too. He's been sneaky competitive with some horses that did not look the part so far this year, most specifically the last month and a half or something like that. So don't discount this conditioner right now. He's got his stock on tilt. And I like the jock change too to Tapara, who's good from off the pace. I know they were slowing up and waiting for her when she came closing on July 20th, but you ain't seen nothing yet. What's the song? Baby, you ain't seen nothing yet. They're going to wait around on her here too. Future Flay. At least that's my case for Future Flay. And I look a lot at the only invader angle in bad races like this with extreme pace scenarios. And Coin Purse's outfit has won a couple of races this year with horses coming in from those Midwestern tracks, some of the smaller Midwestern tracks. And she was in wide open last time and in tight, had a troubled trip, and was running some 4 furlong jobs right before that. So maybe quicker than those races make it look. Has a history of some speed. I'm not trying to sell anybody on this horse. I'm just giving you guys my thoughts on the race. That's really what it's about here in the dungeon. We share thoughts with each other. I'm not going to tout, although I did put my doubles up there for your perusal and entertainment. A Coin Purse also, and I kind of dig this, comes out of a 4% barn, a 2 for 52 barn. So how big a drop off can it be going over to John Brown? In fact, might be potential for some improvement here. And that trainer had to be a little bit dingy because you can see we had Coin Purse at 21-1 and against the boys at Fairmount Park. You don't do that with a mediocre mare. And in fact, he's had her in against the boys like 3 times on her page. So if anything, she's going to get better management here. This is the softest assignment she's seen in a long time. And I think she's a potential winner. I really do. Welcome in, you guys, in the comment section. We're all the good trainers, jocks. This is like country fair racing. This is a really bad card tonight, Tom. This is not good. Not good at all. And it's not going to be good until they get back to some grass racing on Mountaineer. It does not look like the weather is going to cooperate anytime in the near future. It's been an incredible run of wet weather. In fact, I mentioned in my opener tonight that West Virginia has been declared a disaster area because of all the flooding and stuff like that. Accoutrement, yeah. We're getting after some big words, aren't we? Yeah, accoutrement. Yeah, how do you like that? How about the bacon neck on my ancient T-shirt here? I'm a heavy guy that wears his clothes too big. I'm not going to strap on tight little clothes. I'm not going to be Chris Farley's fat man in a little coat. You know what I mean? I'm just not going to do that. When I shop at the big man store, and I have lost weight, I've lost considerable weight without dieting. I don't believe in dieting. I want some eating habits I can live with, baby. But when I shop at the big man store, they chide me, the chicks that work there, for buying my clothes too big. But I got to be comfortable. And what if you get some shrinkage? Plus, nobody wants to look at this body tightly compressed by sexy clothing, you know? Nobody wants to see that. I'm going to vamoose over to my wagering platform and bet some daily doubles, guys, which I posted right on screen. I'm not a guy who cries foul every time I lose a bet, guys, and I should probably just take my medicine. I wanted to stand against Lost Bikini. I'd do it again with the two horses that I used, Coin, Purse, who I thought would open a good lead there, and just maybe stagger home. And Future Flay, who was the late threat. They're clearly the late threat. So I will take my medicine after Lost Bikini. Comes up the inside and wins it. Not sexy, but does win it, Lost Bikini. The first two finishers there, which tells you everything you want to know about this race. The one is $75 horse in sight. And it's strange to couple anometers in 12-month condition with a $75 claiming price. Just makes no sense. Lost Bikini had not won in, I think, 27 months, and Romantic Jewel probably hadn't won in 60 months. So that's the quality of the race that we just watched. I did not like the ride. That caveat aside, I should probably take my medicine and keep quiet. But I did not like the look of the ride on Future Flay there. Check it out at about the quarter pole. It's not a lot of effort when the real running started. Maybe not a good look with his brother on top, 2.5, 3 lengths. And that is not the kind of statement that I usually issue. But I call him as I see him, guys. And could not have made a statement like that when I was doing the Mountaineer feed, but just did not have a good look with his brother cruising on top, still maybe 2.25 to the good. And Tapara motionless, absolutely motionless on Future Flay at that critical juncture at about the quarter pole. Didn't like it at all. Then again, maybe didn't like the way the horse was traveling or something like that. Very possible. It happens. So that put a little dent in me, because I took a big swing at those 4 daily double combinations because I felt so sure that I had that race wrapped up with the 2 and the 3. But it was not to be. So we got 1 to go, 8th race. Nominators twice in 2026, 5.5 is the distance. And a Big Effect. Wow. Big Effect ran second in a supposedly very fast race on July the 19th there. I'm still skeptical that Shiva actually byred 76 just doesn't stand together with the rest of the form from Shiva. I think it's fake, that Beyer fig. Big Effect came back to run a big number because Big Effect got the lead. Big Effect did not have the lead against Shiva there. So Big Effect looked like an explosion there on August the 5th. And has the history, man, has the kind of talent to do that kind of stuff to fields like this. Gets back in less than 2 weeks, which I guess is a good sign. But you see all the drops, man. Claim 4, 32,000. Claim 4, 40,000, drops to 25, drops to the 5,000. A couple of starts later, loses by 34 lengths. So there are some serious infirmities here, someplace rattling around in our soundness closet. Big Effect. And they'll jump out and bite you when you least need them to. That's how it works in thoroughbred racing. But off that performance, I'd be afraid to bet against Big Effect. Is he dangling Big Effect in front of the Claim Box Brigade? Because he knows what Big Effect just did to that field. The big outfits, though, man, they want to run through some conditions before they get all hasty to jack them up the class ladder. So I think you got the speed and cover with Big Effect. It was the most probable winner, and the board's got to reflect that. And Shiva. Shiva, I don't think is as good as that number looks on July the 19th, but Shiva is a logical off-pace threat. And was in with a couple of decent horses last time, Shiva. And I think might get his kick on here because, I mean, look at all the speeds. Remy's Gunsmoke, Iya. The Jedi's Way's kind of morphed into a speed. And then Hoy Lake. Hoy Lake's a strong speed that needs a modest opening quarter to get the lead and is unlikely to get that here. He's just never shown any kind of a passing gear, Hoy Lake, and on paper is not going to go out there with Big Effect. Grayson Sun on the outside pulls in for Silva. Has run some of those 1,000-yard stair races and been up on the pace. So lots of these horses want the lead, and they're going to be traveling hard trying to get it. Iya might be the one to put some pressure on Big Effect. Iya, check it out, man, was second to Cash Customer at the 440 last year, and second to Determined Love at the 440 last year was Iya. But was away from December until April and runs 3 times and now sidelined again for more than 2 months. So something ain't right with Iya. Iya does have the early foot, though, a lot of early foot. whenever he is sharp, and could be a fly in the ointment for number 7, Big Effect. Remy's Gunsmoke overmatched. Probably 10, I think, won his first 4 races over the Mountain Main, or for the first 5, and then tuned up on synthetics. I remember this, and I love the horse at 9-2 and bet big one night into the new meet on April the 13th there, and this horse completely missed a kick and was 10 lengths to best. And I whined and cried, literally cried, for like 2 hours afterwards. Cost me a score. But just has not been the same horse since. You got Terry Crago. Oh, mama, there's that man. But probably 10's most recent race set up for a kicker. In fact, I like that horse Mean Tweets at like 16-1 to win, and Mean Tweets came from way back to win it. Probably 10 is going to keep missing the break and dropping way back, I guess. And I don't think that token late move last time is going to win this race, unless Terry Crago's figured something out, maybe solved something with probably 10. I did not like the looks of that ride. Not accusing anybody of anything, but I did not like the looks of that ride on Future Flay in the 7th race. And if you're of a mind that with an 0-for-24 local record and a 4-for-64 overall, the horse doesn't need any encouragement to lose, then I get you. I feel you. I understand what you're saying. But this race was a very special set of circumstances. And this jock is absolutely motionless, like he's in a daze or something at the quarter pole. It was time to move, baby. It was time to move. So let us check out the comments one more time before we say goodnight. Iya is a scratch. I'm sorry, guys. My bad. I did not realize Iya was a scratch. I don't always keep up on that stuff the way I should. Yeah, Iya is a late scratch, and Silva Jr. is on the 1, Remy's Gunsmoke. The kid can send. I'll give him that much, but he's too heavy to make it as a jockey. And he's just an adolescent, man. He's like 16 years old, maybe 17 years old. So he should get on with his life's work. He really should. I don't mean that as a knock, because I think he could make a race rider were he light enough eventually. So with Iya out of the equation, it's Big Effect's race to lose and Big Effect's lead to get. Grayson Sun's got a lot of speed on the outside. Was a beaten favorite last time, though. For the 28% Diodoro barn, no better than 4th at 6-5 on a class drop. So not exactly coming here on a good roll, Grayson Sun. And Silva's got the 2 speeds in against each other, huh? So let's run through. David Shabel, thanks for showing up. Gavin Sanders, Gavin Newsom back in the house. Steve Maju, thank you. My man, Lyrics, Norman Williams, kind of the hall monitor here. Hojin Lee, good handicapper there. Makes some cogent observations. Code Brown, nasty fan of those loser Cleveland Browns. Rex, thank you, man. Artification, thank you. Who else? We got some other ones in here too, I know. Tom Mellow Chick, thanks, dude. Thanks very much for making the scene. Much appreciated. Tennis Guru. Did you play tennis, man? I actually played tennis 3-4 years ago, and then I jacked my knee up, and I've switched over to pickleball. And when I see guys playing tennis right next to the pickleball court, it looks like the tennis court is like 20 miles long, you know? I can't imagine I ever try to hit a ball that far. I really can't. Chris Connors, good friend of mine there. Love the Terry Bradshaw story. Took a leak, I guess, in the back of the cab, huh? And then did his due diligence and paid the cabbie to get the thing dry cleaned. Cabbie probably left the stain, correct? D-Rest, kind of a weird man, but a man I respect. Diane Smith Ripley, the only lady in the house, a shooting school peak. Man, it tastes like real tea, doesn't it, Diane? I thought this night would turn out better than it has after we nailed that early double. Timmy, thanks, Timmy. Jake, he didn't even know what day it is. That is so true, Jake. This man did not come to praise me. He came to bury Caesar, not to praise him. He said he didn't even know what day it is. And then Mark is drunk. So I don't know. It's like a troll in the house. We can take a little bit of that, though. Not a lot, but we can take a little bit of it. There's Andy Kirk. You know what? Should I ban this guy? walks straight in the house and says, didn't even know what day it is, and then comes right back with, Mark is drunk and haven't imbibed the drop tonight. You know what? I think maybe I'm going to give this guy the boot. What do you guys think? Arquinus, yeah. Thank you, my man. Yeah, I think I'm going to give the guy the boot. I think he's a troll. But it's my house, right? Hey, good luck in the last. Thanks for showing up, guys. We'll catch you tomorrow at about 15 minutes to post. Mark Patterson out.